Welcome, everybody. This is the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley, and every week we bring you the stories of people who are making a difference in the lives of others all over the world. These are people who are acting on Rotary's ideal of service above self, locally, globally, and digitally. Our particular club is one of 36,000 around the world. This is about 1.2 something million people who all are into that thing of how can we make our communities better? How can I help somebody else? I have learned the joy and meaning that come from service, and I want to be part of that, right? So if you feel, as a result of watching this particular story, one of the many stories we share as a part of the Rotary Club of Silicon Valley, that you are interested in Rotary, one of the ways to do that is to go to rotary.org, and you can learn all kinds of things about this wonderful organization that we have all dedicated our time to. If you want to learn specifically about an online and asynchronous and wildly cool and global online club, that would be the Rotary Club of Silicon Valley. You can find us at siliconvalleyrotary.com or rotary.cool. Proud of that. I am going to hand it over to our president this year, Mike Kane, who is going to tell us a little bit about this person that we have speaking to us today, whom we are so honored to have visiting the club. Mike, I hand it over to you.
Thank you, Rushton. It is a tradition in our Rotary District 5170 for the current district governor to make a visit to every Rotary club in the district. I believe we have 61 or 62 clubs in our district. And so that keeps the district governor pretty busy. And one of the things that we like to talk about as an advantage for an e-club is when you're a busy person and don't have a lot of time, we create an asynchronous meeting, which is separated from the week so that every member has an opportunity to participate. And today, our district governor, who we are honored to have as our guest, is going to experience that firsthand by being part of this pre-recorded Zoom call that will actually occupy a week of our regular meeting. Jill Duerig is our district governor. She's a retired general manager from one of the local Bay Area water agencies. And as a water professional, she found a great connection for her work in Rotary to improve water conditions and situations throughout the world. And from her passion for that and her passion for Rotary, she has pursued her leadership track within Rotary to become our current district governor. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Jill Duerig. And on behalf of our club, welcome.
Why, thank you, Mike, and thank you, Rushton. And it's such a pleasure to either meet or see old friends, as the case may be. I am really excited to be here, honored to be the district governor this year. In our district, as you say, there are 63 clubs, 3,600 members. It's a big district, not too huge geographically. It's mainly the San Francisco Bay Area, but it's a really, really exciting year for me. Also busy. I do appreciate the commute to your club more than others, especially with Bay Area traffic. Rotary is not a what is the boss telling us to do, top-down kind of organization. It's really a bottom-up organization. All of the work and fun and fellowship is at the club level. That's why we call it clubs, because people get together, they have fun, they like to give back, they find ways they like to give back together. And the district organizational structure is just to provide ideas and opportunities and maybe some training and not to necessarily tell you what to do. In fact, we have a strategic plan that tells us that we're here to support and provide training and do all the things I just described. And yet, every time I go to a club, somebody will invariably ask me, what is your goal? What is your objective for the year? And I say, no. My objective is to help you. They say, come on, Jill, one or two things. You can say one or two things. So the one or two things are here. First of all, you may have heard of something called the four-way test. If you haven't, it's easy enough to find online, Rotary's four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Does it build goodwill and better friendships, etc.? So when we think of those things, we sometimes do really good at bringing them into our lives. Other times we have a little more trouble with it. And I speak from personal experience. I'm not lecturing about this because I've had this, especially years like now when it's a presidential election year. And we pull into the parking lot and we see our friend's vehicle that is sporting a new bumper sticker that's for the wrong candidate. And we have to remember, A, Rotary is a non-political organization, and B, all viewpoints are welcome. It doesn't change the fact that we're here to have fun together, that we're here to give back together. So I'm asking everybody as my first request is remember the four-way test and be kind. It's a real simple one. It's easy to remember. Be kind. Second one, and as I say, I've had personal problems with this myself, so I know it's actually a much bigger ask than it sounds like. Second one, this is a little bit more in tune with this year's theme, which is the magic of Rotary. I know you all heard about the magic of last week, sorry. And I have my own view of it because in my club, one of my best friends is a professional magician. And, when he's learning a new trick, he has to use all the talent he has. We talk about these 3 T's. One of them is talent. If I were to try to learn one of those tricks, I still couldn't do it because I'm naturally quite klutzy. I drop things, I can't do things smoothly. But he's got a lot of natural talent, so he can learn them. Second T, takes time and practice to make things happen. So T number 2 is time. Third T, it sometimes takes treasure or a little bit of money, maybe to buy some props, maybe to feed that bunny you're going to pull out of the hat, whatever the treasure is. Rotary's the same way. It takes the 3 T's to really make the magic happen. So whether you're donating to a cause, some treasure, whether you're giving some time, whether to volunteer to raise funds or to do some work in your community or to I do a lot of remote work with my friends in Haiti working on well projects especially, and I have to review specifications and bidding documents all the time and can do this pretty easily from remote, but it's taking my past talent as an engineer and applying it in a way that works for the people of Haiti. And then the time, the talent, the treasure, they all come together. And the people on the other end, the first time they see water coming out of a well, it looks like magic to them. And that's the Rotary magic. So be kind and remember the 3 T's to make Rotary magic happen. And now I'm going to ask you if you can identify maybe 3 people for me, Mike, that'll help me out on a little panel.
Okay, so I will step up for that. And I believe Rushton would like to participate in that. We had another member that was interested, but unfortunately had to go early. So Maxie, can I ask you to be part of our discussion as well?
Okay, so this next part is recognizing that we all don't have the same passions. I mean, we see that in our jobs and the friends we pick and everything else. My passion is, of course, water. You already heard about that during my introduction. But I'm going to ask the 3 of you to each tell me sometime when you had a special project or a special program that you were part of in Rotary that just made your heart beat a little faster. So Rushton, why don't I start with you? You're just
Sure.
on the top of my screen here. Go ahead.
I'm situationally positioned to do this.
Correct.
So for me, the cause that I devote tons of time to is the telling of stories. And I believe in my heart of hearts that stories are what get us to the point of understanding Rotary, that get us to the point of being excited about what it means to serve, and so this thing that I get to do with the club of talking with speakers and sharing their stories is something that I really, really enjoy. Now, that said, I'm always happy for other people to like be part of that as well. I mean, let's make that very clear. But even within our own club, story after story after story, I'll highlight like one. With us is Christopher, Deacon Christopher, right? The work he has done to help children living in difficult circumstances all over the world learn to play chess in order to build confidence in their academic ability, in order to become strategic about how they think about things, in order to know that there are people who are willing to invest in their futures is something that I find remarkably inspiring, right? And sorry to put you on the spot there, Christopher, but you know it's beautiful, and I think that I could go around the entire group. You know, I think about Sandy's work with cleft palate surgeries. You know, I think about the kind of things that Maxie has done. You know, on how many continents at this point, right? I mean, like it's just
Let's let Maxie and Mike
let's do because
tell
I can
what their
keep
passions
going.
are too. Okay, Mike, you're next up on my screen. Maxie, I'm saving you for last here.
So my take on my passion for Rotary, aside from all of the good work that Rotary does, um, I don't do well with a paintbrush or a hammer. So I decided that I was going to focus on my vocational expertise to try and give back as much as I could. And so I 2 years ago, for example, I was part of the public image um, effort at the district level, 5170, to be part of the public image committee. And as we were discussing what we would like to do, it was a theme that year to try and bring members back from the pandemic. And my feeling was that the district wasn't really helping the clubs be able to reach out to attract new members with financial support or program support. There was always the Rotary's great, you should become a member kind of talk, but there wasn't a way to get new people who might not otherwise know about Rotary to get interested. And my proposal at that time was that the district would make money available to the membership committees of clubs to create a marketing program specifically to attract a specific number of new members. And it was a metrics driven thing where we asked for a commitment. Those clubs, there was some feeling at that time that maybe clubs wouldn't be interested in the district helping that way, but an overwhelming number of clubs actually came to us and said, what can we do to get some of that money? And we had a lot of support from Richard Flanders, who was the district governor that year. And he made $15,000 available to our committee to give to clubs with virtually no conditions other than that they would sign a contract that said they would use the money for a specific purpose, which they identified and was vetted, that they would follow up and tell us how it went, and that they would set a target to achieve a certain level of membership. And I can only say that that program was way more successful than any of us thought it could be. And it gave me encouragement that, by looking through the lens a little bit differently, we sort of take for granted why we're members, but someone that doesn't know us has to be educated to that. And the appeal has to be to their passion. We talked about your passion for water and my passion for technology, and I'm sure everybody on the call today has a personal passion that they can give back into Rotary to help people understand what we're about and build our membership from there.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Mhm.
Maxie, what has made your heart pitter patter in terms of a Rotary project or program?
Yeah, so I'm extremely passionate about community service, definitely, and I have many experiences to share. But maybe to bring something different to what has been mentioned, I would say that a recent experience that was really exciting to me was participating in the international convention in Singapore as a sergeant at arms. Um, I got the opportunity to do that, and serving other Rotarians in that event was really magical. And you get to see the behind scenes of what it takes to pull off an event of that magnitude. I think it was like 15,000 people, and that is aligned with something I focus a lot of my time, which is serving internally to Rotary to make the organization better at the club level, district level, and Rotary International level. I'm a software engineer. I'm passionate about technology, and since joining in Interact 2006 back in Argentina, I have been working a lot on bringing more technology into Rotary. At the time, it was like having more efficient emails. Back in my district in Argentina, having a forum when social networks were growing, with having like internal social networks, those things we take for granted these days. So my focus today is actually how we can use AI to make Rotary more effective, reduce burden on members. Like if you want to write a global grant, that's a hard thing to do. How can we use AI to make that faster and easier? Um, so that's the way I combine like my passions with serving Rotarians to do better service. And I think that's a good summary. And I can speak all day about community projects as well, but I think Russian covered those very well.
I think you've captured it and gotten people thinking about probably what it means to themselves. They probably think you have a dozen examples, each of you. Now, next, we talk about the magic of Rotary and how it's sometimes in the eyes of the beneficiary, if you will. I'm going to ask this question, then give you a few minutes to think by answering it first myself. So I'm going to say, describe a time when you saw that magic sparkle in somebody's eye because of a Rotary project. And what the heck do I mean by that? Well, here's an example in a community service setting that I had experienced. I was not a very active Rotarian. My job was one of those 60, 80 hour a week jobs, and I barely made time for that and the family and everything else that was in my personal life. And then he had a club member say, well, this is all hands on deck. You have to come, no more ducking this. And so I got dragged off to a holiday party where we brought some cookies, we wore our ugly sweaters, and we went to the VA hospital that's local to try and cheer it up, cheer up their holidays. And we brought some decorations and some little gifts and things. And we're singing Christmas carols with them. And I'm standing next to an elderly woman who's in a wheelchair. And she grabs my hand about halfway through the song. And I'm okay, I can do with this. And at the end of the song, I look down and she's crying, thinking, oh, I didn't sing that badly, did I? I couldn't have been that horrible. I said, are you okay? And she said, yes, you don't know how much it means to us to have you Rotarians come and visit us and cheer us up like this. She goes, you are the only visitors I've had for a year. And I realized the tears were tears of happiness. They were, as far as she was concerned, Rotary was bringing magic back into her life, and it meant so much to her. So, it isn't what necessarily we're feeling, it's what our beneficiaries are feeling. Can you tell me about a time, and I'm going to go through in the same order unless somebody says, me first. If you could tell me about a time when you've seen magic in some recipient's eyes for something you've done. And Rushton, you're first. And I could see you thinking.
So having read stories of what happens in Rotary, um, there are times when sharing the story of another, makes for a better answer. And I was reading a piece from a past Rotary International president who talked about doing a water project in Northern Africa, and how he was there as a part of the team to say, hey, we're really glad to be part of the effort in your community to help with this. And somebody afterwards came up and said something to him, but he didn't understand, didn't speak that language. And the translator was listening and then turned to him and said, she says that she'll never forget this day that the well started working, and she'll never forget Rotary because that day was the day the children stopped dying.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. That's magic.
Yeah.
Thank you, Russian. Mike, do you have a story to share?
Well, I don't have anything that dramatic, but I would say there's two things. One is sharing experiences as you described when our club would do a Thanksgiving dinner for one of the underserved elder care centers in Silicon Valley. And we, at one level, the club coalescing and putting this meal together, um, either going to where to pick things up or cooking things, and then all of us rolling up sleeves and serving these folks who, as you point out, often don't have a lot of visitors. They generally don't have extended families that are caring for them. And so they're pretty much on their own, and the only people they see are the people there. And again, I experienced similar situations where people were, you'd go over, somebody would be sitting there and they'd be kind of staring, and you kind of put your arm around them and say, "How are you doing?" And they would say, "Thank you for doing this. This is really special." So at one level, there's that. And then at the other level, when one of our clubs is doing a major fundraising event that involves the community, the enjoyment of all of the people attending is something to behold. And then when you're able to talk with them about what their contribution is actually doing, then they feel even better about it. So they're having a great time, they're enjoying the evening, but they're also feeling good that they've been able to do some good in the world as well. And oftentimes we find new members that way as well. So
Yeah, it's true.
good for
People see how much fun we're having and they say, I want to give back too. And here's an
Exactly.
opportunity. Well
Exactly.
done. Maxie, what you going to share with us?
Yeah, so this is a story I usually share about a project we used to do with my Rotary Club back in Argentina. So every year we rented a really nice theater, and we made agreements with like famous musicians in Argentina, and we paired them with students, music students that had disabilities, like they were, blind or whatever, right? Like different disabilities. And the idea was public will pay a ticket to watch their concerts, and with that we will then give them scholarships for their music education. Some of these kids have challenges being in a large classroom to learn an instrument. They need some extra attention, so those scholarships would help their development. And in my interest of technology, one year we actually got a crew of guys that had a radio, an internet radio. So they did a streaming, and they were three blind engineers essentially, and they had this radio. So I escorted them to their booth in the theater, and it was great. They were setting up everything. I was actually impressed how they managed to do all these things without actually being able to see, right? And then it was like 10 p.m. The concert finished, and then I guess everyone left, and they didn't notice that I was still in there with these three folks, and the lights went off, and because the place was closing, and I was like, "Oh, guys, like lights went off. I don't know how we're gonna get out of there." And they were laughing. I'm like, and then I realized, like, well, they didn't notice clearly. And I don't think this answers your question exactly, but I think the magic was in my eyes, right? Like I was the one now having to be escorted out because somehow they remember the whole path backwards. And I was like, no, I'll get the guy. My phone didn't have any battery, by the way, so I couldn't like just use the lighter. So, but they took me out, and then after that, I helped them take a taxi and all of that. But um, I know I always remember that as a memorable Rotary experience where I don't know kind of things happen in projects where you're just working together with the people you serve, right? So I think that was a nice experience that I always remember.
It's a great experience. And I see Rushton looking at the clock. I might have to say that's probably about a half hour, Rushton.
Well, we are not quite there yet, and so if we want to work a little bit more magic out of this, we certainly can. Um, what I want to do next is invite anybody who has not been panelized to jump in with a comment or a question. And one thing that I'll do to start is you think about what your question might be. It's just ask Jill, what here we are in the district that houses Silicon Valley. What's the role of innovation in service here?
And you want me to come up with an answer to that right off the top of my head, huh? Um, I'll give it a shot. I think that we have some very creative Rotarians in our district, and you're among them. I think that what we do is identify challenges, and then we reach out to members and say, hey, do you have ideas how to solve it? And Mike's example of how the membership challenge, we continue to have membership challenges, but the solution that you guys tried that year and was so successful was a great example. So we're continuing to try to identify challenges that the clubs are having, partially by coming out and talking to you all. And then going to the Brain Trust, which is our club members and Rotarians, and saying, hey, do you have some ideas for solving this? And it may take a year if it's something that takes money and isn't in the budget. This is how things work, but we make it happen. I saw Sandy sort of gesturing that she had something or putting it in chat, I guess.
Well, I was just going to say for something local is when we had the pandemic. And so through Rotary, I know the owners at Howler's Pharmacy, and then Jasmine, who is the like manager of it, she called me one day and she's like, oh, the county has like 250 vaccines that they've thawed, but they don't have anybody's arms to put them in. So will you help me? And it's like, absolutely, you know. So we just did this impromptu thing. It was raining. We were outside and we did police and fire first, and we did vaccines. And then I think the fire department realized that we were serious about, you know, let's get vaccines in people's arms because this is really going to save lives. And so got a grant and we did over like 50,000 COVID vaccines for the city of Fremont. And it was really amazing because it was just like we had just wonderful volunteers. Everybody worked together. And then every week kept statistics. And we would only do vaccines like on Saturday and Sunday because there were so many other options during the week. And we always gave more vaccines than all the other groups Monday through Friday. Like one day we almost did 1,000 vaccines, and we only had 4 nurses doing it, but we were so organized and the people were so excited to have, you know, local people, Rotary, you know, amazing and experience. And another little quick one is my first volunteer trip to Nicaragua. We screened like 200 kids for surgery, and we ended up doing like 166 surgeries in 4.5 days. And the local staff was kind of standoffish to us. And so they had one of the local people talk to them and say, you know, why aren't you helping, you know, with this project? And we're rich Americans who had come here to kind of like, you know, play and, you know, have glory, you know, and stuff like that. And then they explain, like, no, they're all volunteers. They're all taking their vacation time to come here. And then they were shocked and they wanted to know why we would do that. Like, why would we come to a place where, you know, it's like 95 degrees at 6 in the morning and kids that we didn't even know. Those are my two good Rotary stories.
Thank you, Sandy. Christopher, I think you're next.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, my story is the epitome of what Rotary does for someone who has a dream. I wrote down my phrase is that all dreams are possible through Rotary. I have to thank Lisa has been a supporter of our program, our after school program, but the base of our program began with a $500 grant from San Ramon Rotary Club. And from that grant, we were able to buy chessboards and the pieces and the materials to start the program because it was just an idea and a dream. And we found that it was beneficial to children who did not have parents at home who could teach them to read and gave them independent learning skills. So we're very happy with that. And it turned out eventually, and I'll end here, that our story made it in the 2018 magazine for Rotary International. So we were the cover photo in 2018. Winning Gambit was the story. And it tells our story specifically about how it was Rotary who started us. And then from there, I think what's most important, I became a Rotarian. So, they started us out in 2008. And then in 2010, I became a Rotarian. And from there, I received support to go to Africa. And so anything I ever thought about doing, thinking it might work somewhere else, Rotary and Rotarians like Lisa and others in this club have helped support. Our West Africa trip, we've given grants to other people in West Africa to support their chess programs. So it's just, and it takes a little bit of money, $500,000, puts 20 chessboards in a school, and that gives a lot of kids a lot of decades of critical thinking. So we're blessed to be Rotarians and blessed to have a club like this. Thank you.
I think I'm really over my time now, but those are great stories. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. I applaud you and your club. I think you've got a great club, lots of opportunities. You're doing a great job. I'm excited when I visit clubs like yours, and it just impresses the heck out of me. So back to you, President Mike. You have to unmute, though.
Thank you, Jill, for coming for the long commute. And we appreciate your insight and we appreciate your recognition of our club. We are passionate Rotarians, even though we're eClub members. We all feel a part of Rotary, and we know that we give our time and our energy as passionately as any traditional club might. And we also try to develop new ways of attracting new members all the time. And our club is actually back on a positive track with that as well. So again, thank you for your time. We appreciate your taking the time to come and visit us. And we look forward to interacting with you throughout the rest of the Rotary year.
Well, thank you. And as I just put in the chat, I really do have another meeting. So it's been absolutely wonderful. What a great bunch of people. Yes, goodbye, Deacon Chris and Sandy. So good to see you again. And Terry, Nick, you were very quiet, as was Ernesto. And Lisa, good to see you again. Maxie.
Great to see you.
Thank you for your panelists who contributed, and you will be getting a little thank you note from me with a special pin in it that was made just for panelists. It's an owl peeking out behind the curtains because you've got your own brilliance here in the club, and hopefully they will continue to be the wise owls sneaking out when needed to provide that insight. So you take care, and maybe you'll get to see their pin in a future Zoom meeting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, Jill.